There's a strange moment in life when everything looks fine, but deep down, you still feel one unexpected bill away from panic. You're paying rent, the fridge has food, the paycheck arrives on time. From the outside, it looks like stability. But inside, there's this quiet question that never really leaves you. Why do I still feel financially fragile? And the strange part is, most people never realize there's an invisible line between comfort and actual financial freedom. They look almost identical, until something goes wrong. Most people think financial freedom is obvious. They imagine huge houses, luxury cars, or someone quitting their job to travel the world. But that's not the real line. The real line is far more subtle. In fact, most people who believe they're financially stable are actually just comfortable inside a system that still controls them. And I want to be very clear here. There's nothing wrong with comfort. Comfort is human. Comfort means your life is working, at least on the surface. But comfort and security are not the same thing. One can disappear quickly. The other is much harder to shake. The problem is that society quietly trains us to aim for the appearance of stability, not the structure of it. You graduate. You get a job. You start paying bills. You slowly upgrade your lifestyle. Maybe a better apartment. Maybe a nicer car. Maybe more convenience. And at some point, you look around and think, okay, I made it. I'm stable now. But stability based purely on income is different from stability based on systems. And most people are standing right on that invisible line without realizing it. Let me describe a situation that's incredibly common. You wake up on a Tuesday morning. Your alarm goes off. You check your phone. Your paycheck arrived overnight. And for a moment, there's relief. The rent is covered. Groceries are fine. The credit card balance can be paid down a little. Life continues. But then imagine something small shifts. Your car suddenly needs a repair. Your company announces layoffs. Your rent increases next year. Or maybe something even more ordinary happens. You just start feeling tired. Not physically tired, financially tired. Tired of the constant cycle of earning, spending, resetting, earning again. And suddenly that comfortable life begins to feel fragile. Not because you're irresponsible. Not because you're bad with money. But because comfort is often built on continuous motion. The moment that motion stops, the system stops working. That's the invisible line. Most comfortable lifestyles are supported by a simple formula. Money comes in. Money goes out. And as long as that cycle continues, everything feels fine. This is how the majority of people live. Paycheck arrives. Bills leave. Some spending happens. Maybe a little saving. Then the next paycheck arrives. It's a rhythm, and rhythms feel safe. But comfort based purely on income has a hidden weakness. It depends entirely on your continued participation. You must keep working. You must keep earning. You must keep showing up. And again, that's not inherently bad. Work can be meaningful. Work can be fulfilling. But if the entire structure of your financial life collapses the moment you stop earning, that's not freedom. That's dependency disguised as stability. The invisible line between comfort and freedom is hard to see because daily life keeps us busy enough not to question it. Bills get paid, friends go out to dinner, streaming services renew automatically. You upgrade small things. You order food sometimes. Life is comfortable enough to avoid panic, but not secure enough to eliminate anxiety. And that middle space is incredibly common. In fact, millions of people live there for decades, because the system works just well enough. Until life reminds them how thin the margin really is. There's a specific kind of stress that comes from living on this line. It's not the kind of stress where you can't afford rent. It's quieter than that. It shows up in small thoughts, like hesitating before buying something simple, or feeling uneasy when your bank balance dips lower than usual, or feeling trapped in a job you don't love because leaving feels financially dangerous. That feeling has a name. It's the stress of conditional stability. Your life is stable, as long as everything keeps going exactly as planned. But life rarely does that. Human beings are surprisingly good at adapting to just enough. If your bills are covered and your environment is relatively comfortable, your brain relaxes. You stop searching for deeper structural security because things feel okay. This is called financial adaptation. Your brain calibrates to the environment. If nothing catastrophic happens, it assumes the system is safe. But the brain often evaluates comfort, not resilience. And resilience is what financial freedom is really about. Financial freedom doesn't necessarily mean yachts or private jets. In reality, it's much quieter than that. Financial freedom means your life is no longer entirely dependent on today's income. There's distance between you and financial stress. Time exists. Flexibility exists. The system supporting your life is no longer fragile. Imagine losing your job tomorrow. Comfort says, I'll panic, but maybe I can survive a month or two. Freedom says, I'll adjust, but my life isn't collapsing. That difference changes how you experience work, risk, and time itself. At some point, many people have a quiet realization. They look at their life and ask a question that changes everything. Am I building a lifestyle, or am I building stability? Those two things can move together for a while. But if you're not careful, lifestyle expands faster than stability. You earn more, so you upgrade things. Better apartment, better car, more subscriptions, more convenience. Your income grows, but so does the cost of maintaining your life. And slowly, the invisible line moves with you. You feel comfortable again, but you're still standing on the edge. A lot of people believe the solution is simply earning more. But higher income alone rarely fixes the invisible line. In fact, it often moves the line further away. Because lifestyle growth usually follows income growth. Psychologists call this lifestyle creep. You don't even notice it happening. The nicer apartment feels justified. The upgraded car feels reasonable. Better vacations feel deserved. And suddenly the income that once felt like financial security now feels like the minimum required to maintain your life. The line moved, but you moved with it. What actually creates real security? Real financial freedom usually grows from three quiet forces working together: time, margins, and systems. Time allows money to grow. Margins create breathing room between income and expenses. And systems allow your financial life to function even when you're not actively managing every detail. Most people focus entirely on income. But income is only one part of the equation. The structure behind the income matters just as much. Imagine two people earning the same salary. Both make $70,000 a year. First person spends $65,000 maintaining their lifestyle. Second person spends $45,000 and quietly builds financial systems in the background. On the surface, their lives look similar. Same restaurants. Same clothing brands. Same vacations occasionally. But 10 years later, their reality is very different. The first person still depends completely on the next paycheck. But the second person has time, investments, and flexibility. The invisible line separated them long ago, even though their lifestyles once looked identical. Margin is one of the most underrated concepts in personal finance. Margin simply means space. Space between what you earn and what you spend. Space between emergencies and financial collapse. Space between needing to work and choosing to work. Margin reduces anxiety in ways people rarely expect. Because once margin exists, small financial shocks stop feeling like disasters. Life becomes calmer, decisions become less rushed, and your future becomes less dependent on perfect circumstances. The truth is, building margin requires a mindset shift that isn't encouraged by modern culture. The world constantly encourages consumption. Upgrade, improve, optimize your lifestyle, make life more convenient. And again, none of those things are inherently bad. But if every increase in income immediately turns into a new expense, the invisible line remains exactly where it was. Comfort increases, but freedom doesn't. The role of time. The second force behind financial freedom is time. Not time working harder. Time allowing systems to grow. Investments compound. Savings accumulate. Financial pressure slowly fades. But time only works if something is allowed to grow quietly in the background. And that requires patience, which is incredibly difficult in a world designed for instant upgrades. There's a moment many people experience when their thinking changes. They stop asking, what can I afford today? And start asking, what kind of life structure am I building? The first question leads to consumption. The second question leads to freedom. And the difference is subtle, but incredibly powerful. If someone begins stepping away from that invisible line, the changes usually look small from the outside. They don't dramatically downgrade their life. They don't suddenly become obsessed with extreme frugality. Instead, they quietly shift their priorities. They start protecting margin. They allow savings and investments to grow slowly. They resist the pressure to upgrade every part of their lifestyle immediately. And over time, the system supporting their life becomes stronger. Not flashy, but resilient. Financial freedom isn't always loud. In fact, it's often invisible. It shows up in small ways. The ability to take a break between jobs. The ability to help family without panic. The ability to say no to work that drains you. The ability to think about the future without constant anxiety. It's less about wealth, and more about psychological safety. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself somewhere near that invisible line, you're not alone. Millions of people live there, comfortable enough to function, but still feeling the quiet pressure of financial fragility. And that's not a personal failure. It's simply how modern financial life is structured. But awareness changes things. Because once you recognize the difference between comfort and freedom, you start making slightly different decisions. Not extreme decisions. Just more intentional ones. You protect margin. You allow time to work quietly. You build systems instead of chasing constant upgrades. And slowly, almost invisibly, the ground beneath your financial life becomes more solid. No sudden transformation. No overnight wealth. Just steady progress. And in the long run, that kind of progress matters far more than perfection. Because real financial peace rarely comes from dramatic changes. It usually comes from small decisions repeated over time. And one day you realize something surprising. The anxiety you once felt around money is much quieter now. Not because life became perfect, but because the invisible line that once controlled you is now far behind you.